Well, remember that in the previous class I have introduced what is a graph. Okay, so I have told you that we shall learn about these. We shall say graphs and diagrams. Just you recall graphs and diagrams. Diagrams means those edges will be directed, and graphs means basically they are undirected graphs. Okay, these graphs means here we shall mean undirected graphs. Undirected graphs. Well, and the definition of a graph also we have given. You just recall. I am reminding you. We are recalling. So here basically this graph. I mean G means that is just you recall. We have already done. Just I am reminding. So this is basically a pair. B is a non-empty set, okay, and I mean this B is just to recall B is a non-empty set, and E will be a multi-set of one subsets or two subsets of elements of B. Okay. Uh, well, let me give a quickly one example of a graph so that you will able to understand easily. So you might be having this type of self loop, okay, and there may be some isolated bodies and this type of this may also be there. So this is an example of a graph. I mean undirected graph. We mean a graph means here undirected graph only. So here this I mean, B is a non-empty set and elements of B will be called vertices and element of B is a vertex. So here see, suppose if I give the name of these vertices x1, x2, x3, say x4, x5, x6, x7, say x8 and this vertex is x9. So then here in this example, this vertex set of this graph, suppose this name of this graph be G say, so this vertex set of the graph G, sometime we do also use this notation that vertex set of G if you are dealing with so many graphs. So to make out that vertex set of which graph we I mean vertex set of which graph we do use this notation also B of G, and here in this example it is consist of the vertex set is this set consisting of these I mean x1 x2 up to x9. Well, this is called vertex set, and that edge set of the graph G E of G, or simply we use E if there is no confusion. So here actually it will be consisting of, well, see, whenever this edge say this is a multi-set, say this x1 to x9, it is appearing 3 times. I mean this edge is repeating, and that each repetition will be taken into account. So therefore this is a multi-set we are saying, right? I mean it is consisting of these two subsets, that x1, x9, it is multiplicity is 3. So such kind of edges, if it repeats, that is called a parallel edge. So this edge x1, x9 is a parallel edge here. This edge will be, just you recall, I have told in the previous class. So this is an example of a parallel edge, and also I mean it is consist of all these, I mean for these edges x1 x2, this is also an edge, and that at x2 we are having this self loop, such kind of edge that is consist of only one subset of this vertex set, that x2 it is appearing, twice actually it is repeating this self loop. So this is a self loop, or simply we say a loop actually. And like this actually you note down that all the edges in this X set of this graph. Fine. So then you just recall this. I am reminding you. We have also defined that degree of vortices. So degree of a vortex means that is the number of edges incident on the vertex where the self loop, where that each self loop will be counted twice actually. Every self loop will be counted twice. So just you recall that definition I have written in the previous class. So here that I mean degree of this vortex x1, the degree of this vortex x1 is 4 here, you just look at, and degree of vortex x2, so that degree of vortex x2, tell me what is the degree of vortex x2? Tell.
7.
7, yes, because those self loops will be counted twice. Like this is goes actually, huh? The degree of vortices, and then we have, seen that first theorem of graph theory. Also, I have, told you that first theorem of graph theory. Basically, we refer that as first theorem of graph theory. This is very basic, simple one, but it has lots of application. So it says that sum of degree of all the vortices x belongs to vertex set of the graph, that is equal to twice total number of edges in the graph. Sometimes we use this total number of edges uh, by this notation that E. So sum of degree of all the vortices is equal to twice total number of edges. So this will be very useful theorem. We'll see actually, we'll refer this again and again. And as a corollary of this first theorem of graph theory, we have got that number of vortices of odd degree will be even in number. So this corollary says that number of vortices of odd degree, vortices of odd degree, odd degree, oh, number of vortices of odd degree, number of vortices of odd degree is even. That is, there will be even number of vortices of odd degree. So up to this, I think we have done in the previous class. And actually, quickly, I'll tell you about the history of this graph theory, the subject graph theory, how this graph theory originated. So there is an interesting, history behind the origin of this subject graph theory. So quickly, just we'll have a look into that. And this graph theory is actually originated, the subject originated. So here briefly we can have a history kind of thing, that is very short history I'll give you. For more, if you are interested, you can learn yourself, but this is a brief introduction to this, origin of the subject. So, actually this subject originated in the year 1736. So this originated in the year 1736 by a paper of the famous mathematician Leonhard Euler. That you know, you have learned many results of Euler so far. You have seen actually. So, by a paper of Euler in 1736, the subject graph theory originated. And what was there in that paper? The paper was on that on that solving a puzzle actually. So this paper, in this paper, by a paper of Euler, in which a puzzle was solved or a puzzle was addressed in that to paper of Euler, in which the famous Königsberg bridge problem was solved actually, in which the famous, I'll tell you what is this Königsberg bridge problem, in which the famous Königsberg Königsberg bridge problem Königsberg bridge problem was solved. Königsberg bridge problem was solved. Well, this Königsberg bridge problem was a long-standing puzzle kind of thing. So this Königsberg bridge problem was a long-standing puzzle at that time. So what is this Königsberg bridge problem? So sometimes people do say also that Königsberg seven bridge problem. So this problem is like this. Königsberg, some people do use this word also, seven bridge, or simply this Königsberg bridge problem. So this was a long-standing open problem at the time. So this problem, what is this Königsberg seven bridge problem? It is like this. So this Königsberg was a okay, this is okay. Königsberg was a place in Soviet Russia at that time. And in this place, this was a name of a place actually, Königsberg was a place in Soviet Russia. I think now this name is different of this place. That I mean this is in Soviet Russia only. So in the city of this Königsberg, there was a river. There was a river, and this name of this river, there was a river, and name of this river was Prigel. So this name of this river was Prigel, and in this river actually there were two islands. There were two islands here in this river. There were two islands, and these two islands were, I mean, let us say, name these two islands as A and B, two islands, and these two islands were connected with the bank of the river. I mean, the bank of the river says C, this part, this land area, this one side, one bank of the river, and other bank is this D. So these two islands were connected to each other and with the banks of the river through seven bridges. I mean, those bridges were situated, say, like this. There were seven bridges. That is why this, I mean, problem is called Königsberg seven bridge problem. So these two islands were connected to each other and to the bank of the river through seven bridges. So here I mean, okay. So these are the seven bridges. I mean, these are the seven bridges. So then what is the puzzle here? What is the problem here? So in this city of this Königsberg, this river Priegel was there, and these, I mean, there were two islands, A and B, and these two islands were connected to each other and to the banks of the river through 7 bridges. So the problem here is that, the puzzle here is that, start at any of the land areas. I mean, there are 4 land areas we can think of, that A, B, C, D. These are the 4 land areas. And puzzle is, start at any of the land areas. Any of the land areas you can start. Pass through every bridge exactly once. You have to pass through all the bridges, but only once. Pass through every bridge exactly once and come back to your place of origin. Come back to your place of origin. Whether it will be possible. Whether it will be possible. So here this puzzle is that, I mean, start at any of the land areas. Land areas means those land areas are A, B, C or D. Any of the land areas. Start at any of the land areas. Pass through every bridge. Pass through every bridge exactly once and come back to your place of origin. Come back to the place of origin. Place of origin. So this is what the puzzle. So whether it is possible, start at any of the land areas you like. If you start at A, fine. Or that you have to pass through every bridge exactly once and come back to your place of origin. You can start any of the land areas, maybe C, maybe D, maybe B. So whether it will be possible? Huh?
No, ma'am, it's not possible.
But it's odd, right?
Huh?
So it's odd number of bridges, right?
Yes, ma'am, that's why it's not
So
possible.
if you leave, yeah,
What happened? Odd number of edges.
it's odd number of bridges, right?
Odd number
Exiting,
of
connecting.
bridges.
Yeah. So suppose you start from a point, you exit and you come back, you'll need 2 bridges. Even number of, like, even sets of bridges.
Okay, you are saying that if there would have been even set of bridges, then it would have been possible.
Yeah, it would have been possible.
It would have been possible. So let me do one thing, that suppose you are saying that because of this odd number of bridges, you are saying it is not possible. Say for example, you drop one bridge over here, okay, that is connecting A and C. So if you drop only one bridge, then whether it will be possible? Then you are having even number of bridges. Just you
Ma'am,
drop
then
one of it.
also,
Huh?
ma'am, then
Drop
also
it.
in Island
Huh?
B, we still have 3 bridges connecting Island B, so still it won't be possible.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, the answer is anyway, it is not possible. Not possible that Euler settled this problem negatively, and Euler gave this graph theoretical argument kind of thing, that the argument he used there, so that I mean led towards the origin of this subject, graph theory, and we shall learn more about this type of graphs. I mean, class of graphs, actually they are called Eulerian graphs. Class of graphs from there, actually from this paper of Euler graphs, that also I mean that produced a class of graphs kind of thing. Those graphs are called Euler graphs. We shall learn, we shall later on. Before that we have to see some more terminologies. So we shall refer this problem later also afterwards, and why it was not possible, we shall tell in graph theoretic language. So Euler actually answered this negatively. I mean this puzzle. So Euler settled this problem, and Euler this I mean proved that this is not possible. So proved that this is not possible. Okay, and then from this paper actually the subject graph theory as well as topology also started. Okay, from this Euler's paper, graph theory as well as topology started, and therefore Euler is called father of graph theory as well as topology. Therefore Euler is known as father of graph theory as well as topology. As well as topology. Well, so this was, in 1736 only. But after that, actually, after this paper of Euler for about 100 years, there was no development in the subject graph theory. About 100 years after this, then Kirchhoff, you know that your electrical circuit and all that, you might have heard that Kirchhoff. Then about 100 years after, about 100 years, okay, in 1847, Kirchhoff developed the theory of, kind of graphs called trees. You know that tree, what is a tree, but in graph theoretical language, again, we'll define. So that G.R. Kirchhoff, the same Kirchhoff that you have the same Kirchhoff you know in other physics and all you have come across. Kirchhoff developed that trees actually developed class of graphs called trees, class of graphs called trees. We'll give definition of trees in graph theoretic language to apply in electrical networks. So here to apply in electrical network. In electrical network, and also that after 10 years, Cayley also developed the theory of trees, these trees independently. So then after 10 years of this Kirchhoff, Cayley, you might have heard about Cayley. So Cayley also developed these trees, independently, of course. That time communication were not there among people, so information were also, not quickly circulated among the people. So developed trees independently, anyway, independently, and Cayley introduced these trees to count isomers of saturated hydrocarbons. So Cayley basically used to study this, chemical structure and all that. So while studying those, structure of molecules, atoms, and all that, Cayley introduced these trees to count isomers of saturated hydrocarbons. of saturated hydrocarbons. And after that, I mean, mathematicians like Hamilton, Mobius, and so many people have contributed. After that, Hamilton, Mobius, and others, they have developed this subject, but it was very slow actually. So only after 1920 that seriously people have started working on this subject. After 1920 only seriously people started working on this subject, and so this subject started growing. After 1920 only this subject started systematically, we can say systematically. And now you know that last we can say that 4 to 5 decades, last 4 to 5 decades, lots of work have been done in this subject, graph theory. So this last 4-5 decades, this subject has developed a lot. Graph theory has developed a lot because of its application in because of development of computer science and all. This is part of discrete mathematics, and it has lots of application in computer science or any discrete structure. So that is why this has grown very fast actually, and now it is very important subject, and we'll see several application, possible application in other areas that are during this course. So this is just a brief introduction of the subject graph theory. If you want to learn, then you can see in internet. So we are actually going to learn the subject, and I have told you in the beginning, because this is a first course for you in graph theory, we will have so many terminologies and notations also. Well, the degree of a vertex we have already defined. So let us come to some more terminologies. So now we shall see that some more definition. Well, I have told you that a simple graph. Okay. Have I told you simple graph? Okay, let me define otherwise. So we say that a graph is a simple graph. A graph is a simple graph means graph means undirected graph. I have told you. For directed graph, we shall use this terminology digraph or directed graph. Graph means here for this course we mean undirected graph for our convenience. Therefore, graph means undirected graph, and we shall say graph is a simple graph. Simple graph means that graph will not have any parallel edge or self loop. So a graph is called simple. I think I had told in the previous class, probably, I don't remember. So a graph is simple. A graph is simple if it has no parallel edges, it has no parallel edge and self loop or loop, simply loop we say. If the graph has no parallel edge and self loop, then that is called a simple graph. See this example of a simple graph you can have. See, this may be one example of a simple graph. Okay, or this may be one example of a okay, you might be having some more edges like this together. This is one example of a simple graph. Well, thing is that the graph should not have any self loop or any parallel edge. So that is example of a simple graph. Well, so you might be having, okay, fine. So this is also one example of a simple graph. Well, a simple graph means we don't have any self loop or parallel edge. So in a simple graph on n vertices, maximum how many edges we can have? Therefore, maximum number of edges in a simple graph on n vertices is, what will be the maximum number of edges? Every edge is a two subset. Every edge is consist of two different vertices, right? So what will be the maximum number of edges in a simple graph on n vertices? N number of vertices are there. So what will be the maximum number of edges?
N choose 2.
N choose 2, right? Because we can have that every pair of vertices as an edge. Every pair of vertices will be an edge. Every two subsets of this n set will be an edge. So therefore, the maximum number of edges in a simple graph on n vertices is n choose 2. So when a simple graph will have maximum number of edges, that will be called a complete graph. I mean, let me write it. So here a simple graph on n vertices, a simple graph on n vertices and n choose 2 edges. A simple graph on n vertices and n choose 2 edges is called a complete graph. And this has a notation also denoted by Kn, complete graph on n vertices. That we use this notation Kn. Well, so therefore your K1 will be single vertex. K2 will be 2 edges, and this number of edges, you know that both have 2. And K3 means there are 3 vertices, and every pair of vertices will be an edge, every 2 subsets. So this is K3, right? And K4, there are 4 vertices, and every pair of vertices will be adjacent. Okay, if there is an edge between pair of vertices, we say adjacent, or they are a neighbor of each other also. I'll come. So it goes like this. It goes like this. One thing just I was wanted to tell this terminology. Whenever this xy belongs to a set of G, then we say that x and y are adjacent. I think I have told you in the previous class. We say that x and y are adjacent, or x and y are also called neighbor of each other. This terminology also we use. X and y are neighbor of each other. They are also called neighbor of each other. Okay, and we use this notation also. Sometimes we will use this notation also, that x is adjacent to y. This tilde, x tilde y. This notation also we use for this adjacency. I mean, if x and y are adjacent, and you can think this is a notation kind of thing that we do follow. And if this some pair will not be an edge, then we say they are not adjacent, non-neighbor. This type of terminology will be using. Suppose this pair UV, this is not an edge. Okay, then we say that U and B are non-adjacent, non-neighbor. U and B, they are not neighbor of each other, they are non-neighbor. And this notation, I mean non-adjacent, this notation also we do use. U and B are not adjacent, or they are or non-neighbor. Well, so this complete graph, I mean complete graph notation is Kn, complete graph on n number of vertices. We use this notation Kn. Well, so now I shall come to the graph in which I mean no edges will be there. Okay, no edges will be there. I mean, suppose for a graph G, I mean, if H set of the graph G is empty, no edges will be there, then G is called a null graph. G is called a null graph. I mean, this null graph means it is only consist of the vertex set will be non-empty set, I have told you. So therefore this null graph will be having only some isolated vertices. The null graph will be having some isolated vertices. Where is the cursor? So this null graph will be consisting of some isolated vertices kind of thing. So this is one example of a null graph. Well, for a simple graph only, we also define another kind of graph from a simple graph, that is called complement of a graph. That is called complement of a graph. Complement of a graph. Complement of a simple graph only, not for any I mean that is called multi-graph, not for a multi-graph. For a simple graph, complement of a simple, if you wish, we can write also particularly that simple word. So let G be a simple graph. Let G, suppose I will also write vertex set and edge set, G be a, let G be a simple graph. The complement of G is again a graph, and there, okay, let me write and then I will tell you the complement of G. Sometime we use the notation denoted by G bar, and some people they do use this complement, this they put a C also, a superscript. So denoted by G bar or G complement is again a simple graph is a that I mean from the definition itself it will follow that complement is also simple graph, is a graph with vertex set same as G, with vertex set VG, I mean same as G, I mean same vertex set. The graph G and G complement will have same vertex set, and edges will be will be flipping, and edges will be flipping. But means if two vertices in the graph they are adjacent, in the complement they will be non-adjacent, and vice versa. If two vertices are non-adjacent in the graph G, then those two vertices will be adjacent in its complement. So we are just flipping the edges. Adjacent vertices will make non-adjacent, non-adjacent vertices will make adjacent. So that is what the complement graph is, a graph with vertex set BG and two vertices two distinct. I mean, we are not considering that self loop. Two distinct vertices X, Y are adjacent in G bar in the complement if and only if X and Y are not adjacent in G, if and only if X and Y are non-adjacent in G, right? So therefore, I mean, you can think this graph, I mean, vertex set of C, G bar is vertex set of G. They have the same vertex set. And each set of the complement graph, G complement will be what? So here, I mean, set of all two subsets of G, vertex set of G, suppose I'll write like this. Okay, VG choose to minus H set of G. We can write like this. So what is this notation I have written here? VG2 is this is this set of or collection of all two subsets of VG. Right? We can write like this. Fine. So you can look one thing, that complement of this complete graph. Say for example, K5 complement. What do you get? K5 complement is this null graph. In K5, every pair of vertices are adjacent. So therefore, K5 complement will be consisting of these 5 isolated vertices. So this, I mean, is a null graph only. This is a null graph, right? This is a null graph on 5 vertices. This is how we define complement of a graph. So we shall discuss more on this complement of a graph during this course. Well, so another important class of graphs are called they are regular graphs. So what are these regular graphs? So regular graphs means degree of all the vertices will be same. You know the definition of degree of a vertex. So we say that a graph is a regular graph, not necessarily a simple graph. So let me write that a graph G is a graph G that is not necessarily a simple graph. A graph G, so not necessarily simple one. Any graph, not necessarily simple. Any graph, G is called a regular graph, if every vertex has the same degree. If all the vertices have the same degree. If all the vertices have the same degree. All the vertices have the same degree. Okay. So if all the vertices have degree, say k, then we say this is a k regular graph. If degree of all the vertices is equal to k, I mean for all x belongs to vertex set of G, degree of x is equal to k, then G is called a k regular graph. K regular graph. Well, let us see some example of regular graph. See this any kn you consider here. Look at this example. You see this any kn means complete graph on n vertices we have seen. So this kn is n. What is the degree of regularity? Every vertex is adjacent to all other vertices in the complete graph. So this will be n minus 1 regular graph, right? Degree of every vertex in Kn will be n minus 1. N minus 1 regular graph. Well, and also we can have example. See, okay, so this, okay, not that multi-set. Okay, this, yeah, we can take also this parallel edges. We can take this parallel edges also. We can take, okay, since well, so here I was taking this, I mean, you know that this kind of graph will be called a cycle. Anyway, we'll give its definition also. So this is one example of a two regular graph. This is one example of a two regular graph. Okay, this is one example of a two regular graph. And also, I mean, we can have that, see, this two regular graph, or okay, let me draw like this. So here I have taken a multi-graph. This is not a simple graph. And degree, there are two vertices and both have degree equal to 3. So this is one example of a 3 regular. Although this is not a simple graph, but still it is a regular graph. Degree of both the vertices is same, that is equal to 3. That is why that, I mean, this is a 3 regular graph. Well, so you understand this regular graph, and these are also important class of graphs we will be discussing and will need actually later on. So there is another important concept. Just quickly, I'll tell you that that every structure, that algebraic structure you come across, that has substructure, some substructure. Say if you have learned that vector space, so far I think algebraic structure, that is subspace kind of thing. Okay, set has a subset. A set, for a set, you have learned a subset. A set has subset. So similarly, a graph will have also subgraphs. So what do you mean by subgraph of a graph? So this subgraph of a graph, when do you say that a graph is a subgraph? Here, let us take, let G be a graph. Let G be a graph. Let G be a graph. So another graph H, say a graph H is called a subgraph of G. A subgraph of G. Another graph H that will be called a subgraph of G if what condition it satisfies? That H set of, you can start with vertex set of H is subset of vertex set of G, and also H set of this graph H will be contained in the H set of G. Okay, this is the natural way that we can define a subgraph of a graph. This is how we can define. So a graph H is called a subgraph of G. If vertex set will be contained in vertex set of this graph will be contained in vertex set of G. H set will also be contained in, both have to be contained in this, graph only. So this is the most natural way that we can have the definition of a subgraph in a graph. Well, so let me quickly give one example here. Consider this graph. Suppose I will draw this graph. Well, so suppose you might be having parallel edges also. Okay, and maybe self loop, maybe isolated vertices. Well, this is graph GC. Okay, so let me name the vertices of this graph like this: 1, 2. This is 3. This is 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is what the vertex set. Huh? And the edge set will be, say, edges, name of the edges I will name like this: E1, E2, this edge is E3, say, E4, E5, E6, E7, E8, and E9. These are the edges. So this is what the graph G. Okay, so let me define a graph, say this H1, H1, and its vertex set of H1 will be consisting of, say, here I'll take this, suppose 1, 2, and 6, 7, and edge set of H1 that is consisting of that, edge set of H1 that is consisting of that E1, E4, E1, E4, and say suppose E7. So obviously this H1 I have considered here is a subgraph of the graph G, because vertex set of H1 is contained in vertex set of G. Edge set of H1 is also contained in edge set of G. So therefore H1 is a subgraph, right? H1 is a subgraph of graph G. Whereas if I would have considered another graph, say H2, I'll take vertex set of H2 be, suppose I'll take the same, this 1, 2, 6, 7, I'll take same vertex set, and edge set of H2 I would have taken like this, that, let me go to next page. So edge set of H2, if I take the edge set of H2, sorry, the cursor. So this is consisting of E1 and suppose E5, and suppose it is also consisting of this edge 2, 7. This edge 2, 7 in H2. So in this H2, H2, 7 is there, but H27, 27, this edge is not there in the graph G. 2 and 7, they are non-adjacent in the graph G. So, therefore, this H2 is not a subgraph of G. H1 is a subgraph, H1 is a subgraph of G, but H2 is not a subgraph. H2 is not a subgraph of G, not a subgraph of this graph G, right? Well, let me take another subgraph H3, say, with vertex set of H3, vertex set of H3 I will take H, same vertices I am taking 1, 2, 6, 7, and edge set of H3 I will take edge, say this one be E1, E4, E4, E7, E6, E7, okay, E5 is also there, okay, E5, I have taken all these edges. Okay, So obviously H3 is also a subgraph, you see. All the vertices and edges are there in the graph G. So therefore, you see that H3 is also a subgraph, of G. But there is a difference between this subgraph H1 and subgraph H3. Well, this H3 will be called an induced subgraph of G, and H1 is not an induced subgraph of G. Why? What is the reason? So we shall say that I'll give the definition anyway. H3 is an induced subgraph. I'll say that an induced subgraph, induced in not only a subgraph, it is induced, also induced subgraph. H3 is an induced subgraph of G, whereas H1 is not an induced subgraph, not an induced subgraph, not an induced subgraph of G. Is not an induced subgraph of G. Why? What is the reason? Can you tell? Is not an induced subgraph of G. Why? What is the reason? Why this H1 is not an induced subgraph and H3 is an induced subgraph? Can anybody answer?
Ma'am, because H3 has all the edges which are
all the edges of the graph whose end vertices are there in H3 actually, right? I mean, so this H3 contains all the edges of the graph whose end vertices are vertices of this subgraph, right? So therefore, this is called induced subgraph. So a subgraph is called an induced subgraph if it contains all the, okay, let me write this definition. Therefore, a subgraph is called induced subgraph of G. A subgraph H, let us say, this is H, this is H. The subgraph H is called induced subgraph of G if H contains all the edges of G, all the edges, say all the edges E, I'll write E of all the edges of G whose end vertices are in vertex set of G. Vertex set of H. Whose end vertices are vertex set of H. So, if you consider any edge of the graph G, and if the end vertices of that edge will be belonging to vertex set of H, then H have to contain that edge. So that is called induced subgraph. Well, so also, okay, I think today it is already time. Tomorrow we'll continue. Okay. So that's all for today. Huh? Any doubt?
Ma'am.
Okay, that's all then. Have a nice day. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, well.